Advancements demands for exponential growth. We sometimes overlook how much our surroundings have overgrown, but in the chase of creature comforts, well, everything is supersized these days. And there is no difference even with the most iconic sports car ever made, the Porsche 911.
The Porsche 911 was first launched in 1964, and over 8 generations, many of us have grown love for that iconic sloping roofline down the hanging rear end where the engine is. But the thing is, with the new 992 generation that we have here, this thing is pretty sizable. Just take a look at it. As modern cars go, I have no doubt that this, as a sports car, is definitely going to be faster, better, more economical, more practical, and a better all-rounder sports car that you can drive every day. But as a Porsche 911, is it still holding that original philosophy that it had since 1964? Let's find out. Now, have a look at this. This is a modern Porsche, and even before sitting inside here, I already sort of knew that this place is going to be pretty lit because, let's be honest, Porsche these days are the byword of impeccable quality, and it's no different here. Does it feel like a 911? I'm not too sure. I kind of enjoy the fact that you can sit nice and low. There's a lot of adjustment that you can get from the seats, and I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there we go. Yeah, the steering comes right at you for maximum adjustment, which means that I can get into a position that I can really like, just as how a driver's car should be. Now, as you can see right here, everything on the interior of the new 992 is pretty much digitized. There's this big infotainment screen, which I'm pretty sure gives you a lot of information. And of course, you get Apple CarPlay, phone, media, you know, very good sound system. And then, of course, if you look into where it matters most with 911s, well, you get a big tachometer, which is still analog. So in a way, I still appreciate the fact that Porsche put an analog tachometer between all the digital screens that you get here. If you know your 911s, and of course you know that Porsches have always put this 5-dial system throughout all the generations of 911s, and now of course you get these 2 big digital screens that sit right next to your analog tachometer, which kind of mimics the 5-dial system from Porsche 911s of before, which gives you a lot of information. But yeah, overall, I think in a way, it sort of still holds much of that quintessential 911-esque feel that you always want. But to understand the 992 better, well, I have to drive it. But sadly, the weather's a bit wonky, so I think it's best I go and find a place where, you know, there's a little bit of sun, and you and we can enjoy and understand the 992 a little bit together. Let's take this thing for a drive. Now, when the 992 came out, I didn't like the car too much. I thought the rear was a little bit too big, the front was a little bit too vertical, and the whole car has, well, literally grown in size. In fact, despite using more lightweight materials on the 992, this car is actually heavier than the 991 that it supersedes. But then again, I think generally the whole 911 concept has changed over the years. This car is more comfortable, it's more practical, and it takes a little bit of that pseudo GT-like credentials. And let's be honest, in no way is it less exciting than it needs to be.
Underneath the 992 Carrera S model is a 3-litre turbocharged flat 6 with 444 horsepower and 530 Nm of torque with an all-accessible power band throughout the rev range. That engine is now mated to an all-new 8-speed PDK gearbox for maximum efficiency and will accelerate from 0 to 62 in just 3.5 seconds all the way to a top speed of 306 km an hour. That's a lot of performance for a non-turbo, non-GT product 911, which means Porsche is quite serious in delivering the best 911 with the 992.
If I'm honest, I think that the performance on the 992 generation 911 is pretty biblical. It now of course comes with a turbocharged power unit hanging on the rear, which means that it's faster than any GT3 generation 911 pre-991, which is pretty nuts. This is a Carrera S, and well, thanks to this new 8-speed PDK gearbox, it's super crisp and super fast. It's just a matter of you downshifting to whatever gear you want and accelerate, and it will just keep going and going. This performance is just a lot more accessible for the masses, as for the people that wants to enjoy more of what a 911 can offer, and that philosophy, if I'm honest, isn't a bad thing at all with the new 992 generation. Now with 911s, the love is always, of course, the steering wheel, and well, this car of course comes with an electric rack, and as per all 911s since the 991 generation, and 911 purists will always have their qualms about this electric rack, but if I'm honest, this is where the 911 magic comes in, because Porsche puts work into their cars, and now this steering is pretty sharp. It's darty with the 992, the rack is fast and pretty crisp, and with cars of these days getting faster and faster, you need to always have that confidence behind the steering wheel to know where you are really putting the car on the road. And when we're in the midst of an open road like this, well, there's a lot to enjoy about the 992. It's different, I think, from previous generation 911s. It's got the performance, it's more comfortable. You have all these tech gizmos around to enjoy. You can really drive this thing every day, and in a way, I think that the 911 has grown over the years. It's now a much grown-up car. It's a car that's less usable for those who want to just purely buy a 911 to enjoy driving. This thing now can do a lot more beyond just a sports car, but also as a car. The Porsche 911 is a language of its own. There is no other car in the world with a larger cult following that is so passionate about a particular car. If you were to be traveling around the world and you're a 911 enthusiast, then chances are there is always a bond to create. Regardless if you're driving an F generation or a G generation NoEqual, a 964, 993, 996, 997, 991, or like I am today with the 992, there is always a bond to create with these people around the world. So, if you were to ask me why 911, well, isn't this the most iconic sports car ever made? I think so.